Hi guys, thanks for joining us. So we've actually gotten a lot of new followers since we did a video. It's actually been a while since we've done a live video. We did the February live series and I've posted a few videos of, horses and stuff since then, but I figured I'd just sort of reintroduce myself and see how we were doing. So I'm Becca. I'm sort of the person behind Shadowed Behavior. And shadowed behavior is something that I decided to start in the middle of last year that sort of combines equestrianism and applied behavior analysis. So I have my master's in applied behavior analysis, and I've been horseback riding for about 20 years. And through getting my undergrad in psychology and my master's in applied behavior analysis, I've sort of found that the things I've been doing with horses and the things that most people do with horses has sort of been everything that applied behavior analysis is about. Now, that's not to say that applied behavior analysis isn't everywhere, because it is, and you can analyze almost anything. But so just, a little background on me. And I'm sure every now and then you'll see a cat pop in and out of that window, so don't be alarmed. But going forward, so what we're going to talk about in this video is titled Saying No, Accepting No, and what it could mean going forward. So when I started horseback riding, I was raised with a lot of natural horsemanship stuff, which I'm really thankful for. It's given me a very broad perspective on the field of equestrianism, and it has allowed me to employ a lot of different tactics with the horses that I work with. And so I'm in a bunch of different Facebook groups, sort of going through different training techniques, and I've been seeing a lot of people accepting no from their horse and doing a lot of liberty work, which is excellent if that's what works for you, and sort of moving in that direction. So looking at it from that equestrian standpoint, also looking at it from a behaviorally analytic standpoint, there's a lot of connotations and there's some concerns around accepting no from your horse. So what you're going to see a lot, and the reason that I posed this question and we made that original post about do you accept no from your horse, we got flooded with comments, flooded with messages sort of about whether or not people say no. And we got answers from each end of the spectrum, from yes, every single time they say no, to no, not a single time. I never accept no from my horse. And I was raised, taught through horseback riding kind of both ways. So I've had trainers tell me, we ask for an hour out of their day. This is something that they can do for us. And I've had trainers say to me, you work with the horse, they're your teammate, they're your equal, you move forward with them. And sort of having that standpoint combined with the ideas and functions of behavior and knowledge that I have through applied behavior analysis really they contrasted each other. There was a bit of headbutting going on between these two things that I was very passionate about. And what we were going to do was follow up with a post. So well, if you say no, this could happen, or this could happen. But with how much I wanted to say, I thought that it would be easier to make a video, and I don't think that Facebook would even let me make a post with that many words in it. So we went live, and here we are today. So thanks for following along, those of you that are following along, and if you're watching afterwards, thank you. To all the new followers, welcome. We're really excited to have you. So what I'm just sort of gonna dive in here and look at it from both angles, right? So a horse saying no can look like a lot of different things. Technically, a horse saying no is not even something that you can define behaviorally, right? Because you need to understand the function of a behavior and the topography of a behavior. So the function is the reason why. So that's going to be why is this person, why is this animal engaging in this behavior? What's the function? And then the topography is the actual method that they're doing it. So I could say no to somebody asking me to get ice cream because I'm supposed to be on a diet, and I could literally verbally just say, no, I'm on a diet. Or somebody could be like, do you want to hang out? And if I'm a total snob, I could cross my arms and turn my head away. And that would technically be another way of saying no, but those topographies are both totally different. So you can get the same thing done through different actions. That's going to be your topography. So what it actually looks like. So you can have horses say no to you in a variety of ways. What saying no essentially boils down to in behavioral terms, it's either called refusal or noncompliance. Originally, I was going to title this video like accepting refusals, but obviously those of you that come from the horseback riding world probably know that refusals tend to do with jumping and like refusing a jump. So I was trying to steer clear, you know, certain words have different connotations and meanings in each field. So when your horse says no to you, again, they can do it a lot of different ways. You can actually get a refusal to a jump. That's definitely a no. You can get a horse striking out at you when you go to pick up one of their back legs. You can get a horse running away from you in the field. Something as simple as them pinning their ears at you. Like, those are all ways that your horse can say no to you. So one of the first things that you need to do if your horse says no to you is identify the function. And I'm going to say this in all of my videos. I'm going to say it in every post I can. Anytime I'm in a comment thing or on any other post where people are like, why is my horse doing this? I always say to do this first. You absolutely must get a horse vetted and medically checked before you can do any behavioral manipulation to that animal, ever. For two main reasons. One, that's really unfair. If your horse is acting out because of pain and you're like, nope, they're just being a brat. Like, you don't have the right to assume that. You have to get your horse vetted. And two, if the behavior they're engaging in is maintained by escape, and specifically escape of a painful stimulus, then it doesn't really matter how good your behavior plan is, how good you do your functional behavior assessment. Obviously, if you don't vet first, you're not going to find the true function. That reinforcement, that negative reinforcement of escape, is going to be so powerful to them that your plan is just going to be in the trash. So you have to get your horse vetted. One, because it's the right thing to do by the horse. And two, because if you don't, there's a good chance that whatever you do afterwards is just not going to work. So identifying the function. After your horse has been vetted and you know that it's not a medical issue, you can move forward in trying to identify the function. So you can be like, are they trying to get out of work? Are they trying to gain access to something else? Could it be a combination? Because a lot of the times one behavior isn't just maintained by one function. It's maintained by a variety of functions. While we're here, let's quick review the functions of behavior, right? So the acronym that I've heard is SEAT, which means sensory, escape, attention, or access to tangibles. So those are all really fancy ways of saying sensory is like something they essentially want to feel, or it's like automatic reinforcement. Automatic reinforcement is something they give themselves. Like, I can engage in sensory reinforcement, automatic reinforcement. I love biting my nails. I wear fake nails because of it, because I love biting my nails. It feels so good. That's not reinforcement that somebody else gives me. It's automatic. I give it to myself. The behavior itself is reinforcing to me. You're going to see that a lot with horses when they want to engage in something that feels good. So you're going to see it a lot for horses, like how we discussed before, like escaping pain. So that's going to be sensory. The next one is escape. So again, that's going to sort of be like escaping pain. Escaping, a lot of the time you're going to see like tasks. So you're going to want to look for, you know, you asked your horse to canter. I know I used this example a lot before in some previous of the February live videos, but you ask your horse to canter, they buck, you get nervous, you ask your horse to walk. When they bucked, you were able to reinforce that behavior by asking them to walk. They escaped the demand. And that's the main aspect and the main thing that I wanted to address in this video, is whether or not you're allowing your horse to escape demands. But we'll get into that in a sec. Attention. You might see it with horses, but most of the time you see it with kids. Literally just access to attention, whether it's good attention, bad attention, being yelled at, being praised, what have you. And then tangible, or access to tangibles, which is just like literally an item. Tangibles, edibles fall under that. So giving your horse a treat, giving your horse grain. How many of you guys have horses that kick the stall door waiting for breakfast or dinner? That would be a behavior, I would argue, depending, could be maintained by access to tangibles or access to edibles. So the behavior problems with starting to accept no and then trying not to accept no, right? So let's say your horse saying no could again be that buck when you ask for the canter. So you ask for the canter. If you're riding English, you put that outside leg back to signal picking up the correct lead. Your horse bucks 3 times and you ask your horse to walk. You took the demand away. So you gave access to negative reinforcement. Just as a reminder, because I've seen a lot of people fighting about this recently, negative reinforcement means you increase the behavior. Negative means you take something away. So you took away the demand, which would then most likely increase the future frequency or intensity of the behavior of bucking when you ask for the canter. So if you have this, you're negatively reinforcing something, one of the best things that you can do is sort of put that behavior on extinction if you're trying to get rid of that behavior, which I'd imagine you would want to get rid of a behavior of bucking when a horse is supposed to be cantering. So what you're going to see there and what that's actually called is called extinction. So extinction is when you withhold reinforcement from a previously reinforced behavior. So when you have this when you run extinction, there's two main things you have to look out for. One of the things you have to look out for is an extinction burst. So they buck when you ask for the cantering, you say, no, I want you to canter. They buck again. No, I want you to canter. They rear up into a buck. You know how horses can get that they throw their front end up to throw their butt end really high. So you get one of those. You get more intense bucks. You get more bucks. You get a whole lap worth of bucking. Now, what's the issue with that? Right? So let's say, no problem. Let's say you're a phenomenal rider who stapled themselves to the saddle and you sit the whole lap and you ride through the extinction burst. Awesome. But what's going to happen if halfway through the lap of bucking you fall off? The same thing happened, right? So they got access to that negative reinforcement. The demand was taken away because you're not up there placing it anymore. But you've now reinforced a higher intensity or a higher frequency or both of that maladaptive behavior. So you just want to watch whenever you're going to try to work with extinction with a 1,200-pound animal. There's a lot that goes into it. Not only could you potentially reinforce the higher frequency or intensity of the behavior, but you could be seriously injured. So when you start to accept no's, you might fall into this pattern. And I'm not saying that you should never accept no from your horse, and I'm not saying you must do it this certain way. I'm just saying that if this is something that you want to do, that's fine. My job is to give you knowledge to use however you would like. But just be aware that if later on you're like, no, I actually really need you to do this, then you need to be ready for that extinction burst. Now, the reason that I'm concerned with sometimes accepting no from your horse is if they have to go through with something. And specifically, I'm thinking about literally a vet appointment. So I have Shadow, whose shadowed behavior is named after, and he is what I like to call a saint. He's pretty sweet. He's got one eye. And I love my vet. She's amazing. She's the one that took his eye out. She's been there day and night. She comes in on her days off when there's an emergency. She is just the best vet I've ever had. I can't say enough good things. But Shadow doesn't seem to like her ever since she took his eye out. And honestly, I can't say that I blame him. So when she comes, he tends to get very head shy and tends to rear up. So if I'm accepting a no from my horse for that behavior, if I'm like, oh, he doesn't want it, what if something's wrong? So my main concern, as yours should be as well, is your horse's health. If you're accepting a no from your horse when you're like, I want you to canter a 17th time, and they're like, I'm really tired, that's one thing. But if your horse has to be vetted for something, I wouldn't recommend accepting a no. So let's go back to the original post and sort of see what we can do about it. There's a chainsaw outside, so I'm just going to shut the window really quick. Excuse me. Move. Okay. Now you don't get to hear anything but me. Lucky you. Okay. So moving forward, going sort of back to where I was with the original post, so whether or not you accept no from your horse. What you want to look for, and what I looked for in the comments through your answers, and I saw the best answers I could possibly get, right? Almost every single person said it depends, because it does. Absolutely everything you do is going to be contextual and specific almost to that environment. So, and not only to the environment, but to the horse that you're working with, to you, to the mood that horse is in, to the mood that you're in, however you're feeling, whatever's been going on. And there's 1,000 different variables that impact not only us, not only the horse, but then sort of that combination as well. And they all need to be taken into effect. So everything you are going to do with your horse is going to be situational, which sort of brings me into this side note that I want to bring up, which is books. There are so many books out there that are like, this is how you train a horse from A to Z. All of it is right here. And that's awesome. And that might be able to give you a lot of knowledge, but it's not knowledge that you really necessarily need. I mean, yeah, of course you do, but you're going to need to know how to actually apply it. You can be the smartest person and have read every textbook and every book on horses and training horses, but if you don't know how to, go through that information and decide what you need for your horse in that specific moment, because everything is situational, then you're not going to get that far. So I've got 2 books over here to show you as like an example. So one of them is the funniest book I've ever owned, which is called False Knees. It was a Christmas present, but essentially what you're going to look for in books, and this isn't even like a real book, but what you want to look for in the back, which this one doesn't have, it's literally just comics. In the back, if you're finding a reputable book, there should be one thing always in the back of that book. And if you don't know, you should check. So here's my other book, the RFT, Relational Frame Theory. And I know for a fact this one has it, pages upon pages of it, references. Science is what's going to drive information. If you're going to read a book about somebody claiming that they know how to train horses, check their sources. Make sure that they actually have data behind what they're saying. Personal experience is awesome and it'll get you really far, but if you're going to go out of your way and tell other people what to do, you should have sources behind it. So, going forward, for accepting no from your horse, I'm not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. There are behavioral implications here, so look out for those extinction bursts. Look out for generalization and maintenance. One of the other most important things that blew my mind the first time I saw it is that the best schedule of reinforcement for maintaining behaviors is this thing called intermittent reinforcement. So it means not every single response is reinforced, but some of them are. And that tends to be something that maintains behavior really, really nicely. So the best example I can think of here is gambling. So you're going to look for things like, it's sort of that sort of mindset where you're like, oh, I didn't get it this time, but maybe if I just give it one more go, I'll get it. So that's intermittent reinforcement. So if you're trying to run extinction and you're not consistent in it, you're essentially running intermittent reinforcement. So they don't get reinforced most of the time, but every now and then they do. So if you're going to run extinction, I'm all for it. Go right ahead, but be consistent. Consistency is everything. You'll never be able to truly evaluate the plan that you've made if you're not consistent in it. So that's just about all I've got. If you want to accept no from your horse, you should. And there are times that you should. I had a horse that I was working with not long ago who was trotting along and planted her feet and bucked at a standstill, and I just got off of her because I didn't know that horse's history. There's no way that I can accurately push through with a behavior plan or even conduct a functional behavior analysis if I don't have that horse vetted first. And it took like 4 weeks to get that horse vetted, and I did, and she's totally fine. So when I hopped back on, there was a big extinction burst to work through, and she bucked quite a few times when I asked her to continue trotting. But I was able to continue asking her to trot with confidence and a surety that I was doing the right thing because I had the horse vetted. So this is just about all I had for you guys. I tried to make it more concise and have a better flow. I have a nice little outline here beneath my camera. But before we go, I'm just going to hang on tight for 1 second, see if anybody has any comments, questions, anything like that. If you don't, no problem. But I thought I'd give you guys, a chance. Yeah, otherwise I'll give you guys about a minute if anybody has any comments. Otherwise, we'll be good to go. Again, I can't stress this enough. I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your horse. There are absolutely times to accept no. And if that's what works best for you and your horse, then please, by all means, continue doing it. I'm just saying that if there's certain ways that you accept no, there could be behavioral implications going forward, and I wanted to explain them. I hope that you guys can use this knowledge to become a better horse people, a better behaviorist. If that's what you're trying to do, run with it. But otherwise, that's just about all I've got. So thanks for following along. And If you have any questions, feel free to comment them. Feel free to like our page, like the video, share the video. Check out our website at www.shadowedbehavior.com. You can email us anytime at shadowedbehavior@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram, find us on Facebook, find us on YouTube, find us on Google. Oh my gosh, we're everywhere. We're getting business cards soon, and it is very exciting. But otherwise, have a nice night, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. Thanks.